All right. Hey everyone, welcome back to Lookout. My name is Zeke Lunder. Here this morning here with Jasper Zuko Lunder. Morning, Zuko. We're going to talk today about fires on the Klamath River. We're going to jump down and look at the fires on the Trinity River. There's not a lot to report right now on the fires on the Klamath. Kind of behaving themselves. Today's a red flag warning day on the McKinney Fire. So some concerns there that parts of it could get up and go, but they've had almost 10 days or more to kind of tie things up there, so things are going pretty well. Yeti Fires going well. I've seen some comments. People are concerned because it's 0% contained, but when we get down there and look on the map, you'll see that it's actually been 50% contained since the day it started because it's surrounded by the river. And so things are going well there, it sounds like. And the Yeti, it sounds like, is not forecast to be inside the red flag warning. So let's jump to the maps. No, not that map. Let's try this again. All right. I'm going to jump in on McKinney Fire. Pretty much the same story we've had every day here for a while now. Fires backing in the difficult to reach areas in Mill Creek. The white line here is 24-hour spread, and it's kind of about what it's been doing. It's a little less than it's been doing the last few days. The fire here on the hot area up on the right hasn't moved since yesterday. So the white line is 24-hour fire spread as of last night about 10 p.m. So still backing down, no movement on the upper part of that slope there, kind of going with the plan. Coming over here above Horse Creek and Collins Creek, the firing operation we've been watching here filled in a bit. So the white line is where it was yesterday, but basically there's a dozer line that comes down off this ridge, and they've been bringing fire slowly down that. And so it looks like it's checked up here, like probably a dozer line across. So this area here hasn't moved since yesterday. It's still got some open line here that shows spreading yesterday. No movement on the north side of the fire. There's a teeny little finger that shows spread over here across from Dutch Creek in this area that's been hot for a while. And this is only really finger of heat on this whole side of the fire that shows up on the infrared. So we're looking up Pumbug Creek here. There's Wairika on the left. So yesterday we got some imagery that's it's called Sentinel imagery, and Sentinel is a satellite run by the European Space Agency, and it flies over every 5 days. And I'm gonna pull it up here. We can analyze the Sentinel, and let's have to find it here. See the severity of the fire, basically, and so it's pretty interesting in that it shows. Sorry, it's not turning on for me here. It's a great tool in that it's in the past it was rare for us to have satellite imagery that would come in so in such a timely fashion. So here we're looking at the Sentinel, and it shows where it's brown is like there's all the trees are burned and no vegetation. Brown and tones of yellow are just kind of bare earth in this imagery. So it's a lot of different wavelengths and bands to this imagery, and you can kind of pull apart and make an image of the the spectral information you want, and some of it shows better than others. So, but anyway, this, and I know it's a little hard to become oriented here, but basically we're looking here at Upper Humbug Creek, and this is the watershed that really blew out with the big debris flow. And so you can see around the top of it, just this bright yellow, like it burned really hot. So now we're coming down the Highway 96 corridor here towards Quigley's. And so what this imagery is showing us is what most people already have kind of figured out or know from the fire behavior. It's just that the initial run of this fire was incredibly hot and severe, and it killed almost all the vegetation in this 30,000 acre swath. Barkhouse Creek, comes down from the divide between the Klamath and the Scott River, and that also had a big debris flow. We reported on that in the lookout yesterday, and you can check out the photos there. But anyway, this preliminary severity imagery, you can still see the active part of the fire. You know, we were talking about how the fire was backing down yesterday. This is from 2 days ago, actually. You can see the active fire backing there. And you can also see the active fire over here in Mill Creek. Anyways, it's one of the better tools we have for understanding fire effects on kind of that landscape scale. Only other thing on this imagery is you can see the firing is there's still some heat from firing operations along the top of Indian Creek and across the top of the saddle of Barkhouse Creek, where they have a little heat on the ground still, where they're looking to kind of tie in this area that hasn't burned yet, let fire back in. So we'll jump down to Yeti. We also have the same imagery for Yeti, and the smoke obscures it a little. You can see on Yeti on the 5th where the fire was backing down, where it slopped over the Doge line and kind of burning in the head of China Creek. And you can see that the fire burned hot on the upper slopes, and that we had mixed severity where the fire has backed down into the Klamath River. So we talked quite a bit on this fire about how, as it spread this way, how we were going to have these kind of slope-driven runs where the fire becomes established, rolls out, becomes established, and runs up as a head fire, and how that creates this kind of mix of severities. And so you can see that happening. You know, places where the fire is back down are blue, and a lot of trees survived, and places where it's kind of run up as a head fire is higher severity, brown. And that's really typical. You know, these south-facing slopes get a lot more sun. They're hotter in the afternoon, and they also catch that up canyon wind. So everything about this location on the landscape sets it up for higher severity patterns. And so oftentimes you'll see brush or you'll see sparse timber on these kind of south-facing steep upper slopes. It's kind of what we expect. And then on our north slopes, we tend to have more old growth, the shade, and historically even fires there have often back down in from runs that come up the south face. So it's a little smoky on this fire still to see what the final severity is going to be, but initially you can kind of see that there's a real mix. Upper slopes have more brown, look like they burn hotter, and then the lower slopes, like this is already all burned in here, and you can still see there's some green up there. So that kind of matches what we're hearing from people like Jamie Allen and people who are sending us photos of the backing fire, is that we expect that a lot of the trees on this north slope are going to survive. So like we said before, why is Yeti only 50% or only 0% contained in the report? So it's like, okay, this at this point is pretty much contained. There's been a couple spots over the river that have been picked up, but we've got a massive fire line around half of the fire when it even started, just from the river. Really very little heat showing on this firing operation on the West Grider Road. And also, it's really cooling off here on this ridge and on the slop from the firing operations. So even though the numbers are low for containment, if this fire holds through the upcoming red flag conditions nearby, it's looking pretty good. Okay, jumping out, just showing that fire history. You know, these blue areas are recent fires. we're going to jump down here now to Willow Creek. Over here, we've got, sorry. Yesterday we looked at the satellite heat detections. Here they are again. The red dots are fire in the last 12 hours. Orange dots are in the last 24 hours. So there's some spread. I still don't know the names here, and there's no maps available on the site where we usually get our operations maps. They aren't set up yet. Sounds like a team's taking over today, so we should have better maps tomorrow. But we do have infrared here from last night, and it shows quite a bit of spread here to the east, north of Salyer. And also concerning is the infrared shows a whole bunch of spots all over out here, happening yesterday evening. I don't have any other intel from anyone on the ground as to the accuracy of this. And so I really usually can't, I can't say if this is a mapping error, but I would say that usually the mapping is pretty tight. So that's a big deal if it's actually happening. I know on this fire they dropped a huge amount of retardant in the first couple hours that they had access, something like 20 or 25 loads of retardant. But retardant just slows the fire down. It doesn't actually put it out, and especially when the fire's spotting. You have to have crews to come in and do the work to actually contain the fire. Anyway, so these fires continue to spread. Quite a few of the smaller fires have been put out. And this is about as much as we got to report on these fires at this time, is just what we're seeing on last night's infrared. This likely will have a midday infrared update. If so, we'll post that on Twitter, and we'll talk about it tonight. Tonight, I'm going to be hanging out on here with my good friend Will Harling. Will is from the Klamath. So here we are, Arcata, Eureka. Come over here to the confluence of the Salmon River and the Klamath here in Somesbar. And Will grew up out here in the Salmon River, way out. He's like, not many people in California live farther out than Will Harling. Anyway, Will helped start the Mid-Klamath Watershed Council in Orleans down here. And this is all Karuk territory. And McWick, the Mid-Klamath Watershed Council, has been doing a ton of burning and working with the natives on getting more fire on the ground. And we've been going out there to help with the burning, and we've helped them do a lot of planning work over the last 10 years. So he and I are going to talk. I was on a fire in 2008, and Will was there as a resource advisor, and they told the fire team, mostly people who were from Southern California, hey, what you're doing is not going to work. It didn't work on the last big fire. It didn't work on the last fire before that. And the fire team kicked them out and said, hey, you're not working as resource advisors anymore. We don't want to hear you. And I said, I remember that guy, Will Harling. I remember his name. And Will's never been afraid to speak his mind, and he's a smart dude. Really excited to have him on. We're just going to kind of dive deep into what we're thinking about, because 14 years after Will got kicked out of the fire camp, we're having the same conversations. Why is this fire being put out? Why is that fire not being left to burn? Why aren't we using more prescribed burning? Frustrating. We're going crazy with this, having the same conversation over and over. So tune in tonight on the live stream, 4:30. If you miss it, it'll be on YouTube. Looking forward to it. Got anything to say, Zuko? All right. Well, thanks for joining us. If you got intel on what's happening over in Willow Creek, if you're living over there affected by it, feel free to drop us a line. There's a link to an email to me on thelookout.org, the-lookout.org. And you can also follow on Twitter, wildland_ZKO. And that's where we throw updates during the day. So if you're affected by the fires, good luck. If you're evacuated, hope you get to go home soon. And thanks for supporting